Hi everybody, I'm Geo. Tonight's story takes place in a greasy spoon off Route 1, where the ribeye sizzles and the fluorescent lights hum like old secrets. I gave Copilot the characters, the mood, and the format. Let's see what he came up with. Chapter 1. It was 9:30 at night, late September, and the diner smelled like burnt onions and lemon-scented bleach. I'd just wiped down booth 6 when he walked in. Creased suit, scruffy chin, and the kind of tired that made you wondered if he'd been running from something or toward it. "Ribeye," he said, voice low. "Medium rare. It's my birthday." I blinked. "You want pie with that?" He looked up, hazel eyes. "You offering?" "Depends. You want cherry or company?" He smiled, barely. "Let's start with cherry." I scribbled the order and slid it to the kitchen. Mel, the cook, grunted. "I'm Mel, too. Waiter Mel. He's Grill Mel. We don't talk much unless the fryer's on fire." The birthday guy sat in booth 4, tapping his phone like it owed him something. I brought him water, then steak, then pie. He didn't touch the pie. "You celebrating alone?" I asked, refilling his glass. He shrugged. "Market tanked. My boss thinks I'm a liability. My ex, Eli, thinks I'm a cautionary tale. I figured steak was cheaper than therapy." I leaned against the counter. "You're not a liability. You're just medium rare. Still cooking." He laughed, full-bodied this time. "You always this poetic?" "Only when I'm flirting," I replied. He looked up, again, slower this time. "You're good at it." The diner was quiet, just the hum of the fridge and the occasional hiss from the grill. Outside, the moon hung low over the parking lot, casting silver across the cracked asphalt. A breeze rattled the door, carrying the scent of rain and distant traffic. He pushed the pie toward me. "You want it?" "I'm more of a porridge guy," I said, "but I'll split it." We shared the piece in silence, forks clinking against ceramic. His shoulders softened. Mine did too. "I used to think birthdays were for big things," he said. "Champagne, fireworks, but maybe it's just about not being alone." I nodded. "And maybe it's about cherry pie and someone who sees you." He looked at me like I'd said something holy. "You see me?" "Yeah," I said. "I do." He reached across the table, fingers brushing mine, warm, steady, a little calloused. "I'm Caleb," he said. "Mel," I replied. "The waiter one." We stayed like that until closing, talking about mango futures and fleece jackets and the worst dates we'd ever had. He helped me stack chairs. I gave him a free refill. He kissed me in the parking lot. Soft, surprised, like he hadn't planned it, but was glad it happened. The moon watched. The pie was gone. And for once, I didn't mind working late. Chapter 2. It was 10:15, the next night, when the door chimed again. I was wiping down the counter. Caleb was still nursing his water, and Grill Mel had just muttered something about overcooked feelings as he flipped a patty that hadn't asked for a metaphor. The guy who walked in wore a denim jacket over a graphic tee, some faded band logo I couldn't place. His hair was damp, like he'd walked through rain or regret. He paused just inside the door, eyes scanning the diner like he was looking for ghosts. Caleb stiffened, didn't turn, just held his glass like it might break. I didn't need a name. I could feel it. X energy, sharp and unfinished, the kind that makes pie sweat and booth 4 feel smaller. "Hey," denim guy said, voice soft. Didn't think you'd be here. Caleb didn't answer. I stepped in, because someone had to. Booth 6 is clean, I said, or you can sit at the counter. Pie's cherry, and the grill's still hot. He looked at me, surprised. You work here? Only when I'm awake. He smiled, barely. I'll sit with Caleb. I poured him water. Caleb still hadn't moved. Grill Mel grunted again, something about double orders and no refunds. Denim guy, Eli, I guessed, tapped his fingers against the formica. I didn't come to fight. Good, I said. We're fresh out of napkins. He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. Caleb finally turned, slow and deliberate. You always show up late, Caleb said, even to endings. Eli flinched. I didn't know you'd be here. Does it matter? I wiped the counter again, slower this time. The diner felt tighter, like the walls were listening. I just wanted to say happy birthday, Eli said. Caleb didn't answer. I slid a slice of pie between them. Neutral ground. On the house, I said, for whatever this is. Eli looked at me. You always this generous? Only when I'm eavesdropping. They both laughed, and for a second the tension cracked, just a little. Caleb pushed the pie toward Eli. You want it? Eli shook his head. I'm not hungry. Still allergic to closure? Eli blinked. That's not fair. Neither was the breakup. I stepped back, gave them space. Grill Mel flipped something with a hiss that sounded like judgment. Outside, the rain had started, soft, steady, rhythmic, the kind that makes you want to stay somewhere warm, even if it's uncomfortable. Eli stood. I should go. Caleb didn't stop him. I didn't either. He paused at the door. You look good. Caleb didn't answer. Eli left. I refilled Caleb's water. He didn't drink it. Sorry, he said. For what? For bringing drama to your diner. I shrugged. Booth 4 has seen worse. He looked at me, tired but grateful. Thanks for the pie. Thanks for the kiss. He smiled, and this time, it reached his eyes. Chapter 3. By 11, the diner had emptied out. The couple from booth 2 left holding hands. The guy who always orders tuna on rye had tipped in quarters again. Caleb was still in booth 4, staring at the pie like it might offer advice. Grill Mel wiped his hands on a towel that had seen better decades. You keeping him? He asked, nodding toward Caleb. I shrugged. He's not hurting anyone. Neither's the pie, Mel said, but it's still here. I didn't answer. Caleb looked up, catching the tail end of our exchange. Is he always like that? He asked. Grill Mel? Yeah, he's the oracle of overcooked wisdom. Caleb smiled, but it didn't stick. I didn't expect Eli. Did you want him to come? He shook his head. No, but I wanted him to remember. I leaned against the counter. He remembered enough to show up. Yeah, Caleb said, but not enough to stay. Outside, the rain had turned to mist, soft, silver, clinging to the windows like breath. The diner smelled like lemon bleach and old fries. Booth 4 creaked when Caleb shifted. I used to think closure was a conversation, he said. Now, I think it's just a decision. I nodded, and sometimes it's a refill. I poured him more water. He didn't drink it. I don't know what I'm doing, he said. I came here because I didn't want to be alone, and now I'm not sure if I want company either. I sat across from him, just for a minute. You don't have to decide tonight. He looked at me, eyes tired, but open. You're easy to talk to. Occupational hazard, I said. He laughed, soft. You ever get tired of listening? Only when people lie. He didn't. Grill Mel clanged a pan in the kitchen. Caleb flinched. You want to go somewhere quieter? I asked. He blinked. You mean like? I mean like the back booth. No grill noise, no ghosts. He hesitated, then nodded. I led him to booth 6, the one I'd wiped down earlier. The vinyl was still damp. He sat, folded his hands, looked at me like he was trying to decide something. I'm not ready, he said. For what? For anything. I nodded. Then let's just sit. We did. No pie, no pressure, just the hum of the fridge and the soft rattle of rain. Grill Mel didn't say a word, but I swear I heard him grunt approval. Chapter 4. The rain had stopped by midnight, but the window still wore its memory, beaded streaks catching the neon glow from the "Open Late" sign like melted candy. The diner had that post-rush hush, where the hum of the fridge felt louder than it should, and the scent of scorched coffee clung to the air like a stubborn guest. Caleb sat in booth 6, tracing the rim of his water glass with one finger. His jacket was folded beside him, revealing a navy button-down with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. His forearms were tan, dusted with freckles. I noticed that before I meant to. Grill Mel had gone quiet, which meant he was either asleep behind the fryer or listening harder than he let on. I didn't check. Some silences deserve their privacy. I should go, Caleb said, not moving. You could, I replied, wiping down the counter again, but the pie's still warm. He smiled, faint. You always this persuasive? Only when I mean it. He looked at me then, really looked, like he was trying to decide if I was a safe place to land or just another layover. I don't usually do this, he said. Eat pie with strangers? Talk, stay, want to stay. I nodded slow. You don't have to explain. But he did anyway. My last relationship ended in a voicemail. Eli said he needed space. I gave him Utah. I winced. That's generous. He said I was too much, too intense, too hopeful. I leaned against the counter. Hopeful's not a flaw, it's a seasoning. He laughed, surprised. You always talk like that? Only when I'm trying to keep someone from leaving. He didn't leave. Instead, he stood, walked to the counter and sat across from me. The stool squeaked under his weight. His knee brushed mine. Accidental. Maybe. Maybe not. The air between us shifted. Not heavy, not electric, just aware. Outside, a semi growled past, headlights slicing through the mist. The scent of wet asphalt and old grease mingled in the vents. Somewhere in the back, the ice machine clunked like it was clearing its throat. Caleb reached for the pie, took a bite, chewed slow. This is good, he said. Grill Mel doesn't mess around, I replied. He looked at me again, softer now. Neither do you. I didn't answer, just let the moment stretch, warm and unhurried. That's when the door chimed. Not Eli, not a customer, just a delivery guy with a box of paper goods and a clipboard that needed signing. But it broke the spell. Caleb blinked, like he'd forgotten where he was. I signed the form, nodded to the guy, and turned back. Caleb was still there, still looking at me. I'm not ready, he said, again. I know. But I want to be. And there it was, the catalyst. Not a kiss, not a confession, just a want. Spoken out loud, given shape. I poured him another glass of water. He drank it this time. Chapter 5. By 12:30, the diner had settled into its final rhythm. Low hum, soft lights, the scent of lemon bleach fading into something gentler. Booth 6 was quiet. Caleb had stopped tracing his glass and started watching me instead. Like I was the last page of a book he wasn't sure he wanted to finish. I wiped down the counter again, not because it needed it, but because I did. Grill Mel was restocking the freezer, muttering about emotional leftovers and cold storage. I didn't ask. Caleb cleared his throat. You ever wonder if you're just someone's rebound? I blinked. You mean tonight? He nodded, slow. I didn't plan to meet anyone. I didn't plan to talk, but now I'm here, and you're you. I leaned against the counter. You think I'm a rebound? I think I'm confused. Outside, the mist had thickened. The parking lot shimmered under the streetlight, puddles catching reflections like secrets. A car drove past, tires hissing against wet asphalt. The neon sign flickered once, then held steady. I don't do casual, I said. Not well. Caleb looked down. Neither do I, but I'm not sure I do serious well either. I nodded. So we're both bad at something. He smiled, faint. You ever get tired of being the one who listens? Only when I want to be heard. He looked at me then, really looked, like he was trying to decide if I was safe or just familiar. I don't want to hurt you, he said. Then don't. It's not that simple. It could be. Grill Mel clanged a pan, loud and deliberate. Caleb flinched. I didn't. I like you, Caleb said. I know. But I don't know what to do with that. I stepped closer. You don't have to do anything, not tonight. He nodded, slow. You're good at this. Only when I care. The fridge hummed. The pie sat untouched. The air smelled like rain and resolution. Caleb reached for the pie, took a bite, chewed slow. I'm not ready, he said again. I know. But I want to be. And that was enough for now. Chapter 6. By 1 a.m., the storm had arrived. No warning, no build-up, just a sudden crack of thunder that rattled the windows and made the neon sign outside flicker, like it was reconsidering its glow. Rain slammed against the roof in sheets, heavy and fast, like the sky had been pulling back all night, and finally let go. Inside, the diner felt smaller. The lights buzzed. The air smelled like ozone and old grease. Booth 6 was still ours. Caleb curled into the corner, jacket back on, fingers wrapped around a mug of decaf he hadn't asked for, but hadn't refused either. Grill Mel retreated to the back, probably nursing a thermos and muttering about emotional weather fronts. I didn't follow. Some storms are meant to be watched from a distance. Caleb spoke. You ever fight with someone and forget what started it? I nodded. Most of my 20s. He smiled, faint. Eli and I fought about a couch. A couch? Yeah. He wanted to keep the one his ex gave him. I said it felt like sitting in someone else's lap. I leaned against the counter. That's fair. He said I was jealous. I said he was sentimental. Then he said I was controlling. I said he was cruel. And then voicemail. The thunder cracked again, louder this time. The lights flickered. Caleb didn't flinch. I kept the couch, he said, for a while. Did it help? No, it just made me feel like I'd lost twice. I poured myself a mug of decaf, sat across from him. The vinyl squeaked under me. The rain kept pounding, steady and relentless. He texted me last week, Caleb said. Said he missed me. I didn't answer. He said he was sorry, that he'd been scared, that I was too good. I stirred my coffee. You believe him? I believe he meant it. I don't believe he's changed. The fridge hummed. The pie was still untouched. The air felt thick, like the diner was holding its breath. I didn't reply, Caleb said, but I thought about it. I nodded. That's allowed. He looked at me, eyes tired but clear. I don't want to go back, but I don't know how to go forward. I sipped my coffee. Maybe you don't have to know. Maybe you just have to move. He smiled, slow. You always this wise? Only when the storm's loud enough to drown out my doubts. Outside, the rain softened. The thunder rolled farther away. The neon signs steadied. Caleb reached for the pie, took a bite, chewed slow. I'm glad I came in, he said. Me too. And just like that, something sizzled. Not with a kiss, not with a promise, but with a bite of pie and a story about a couch. Chapter 7. By 2 a.m., the storm had passed, but the diner still smelled like wet pavement and ozone. The windows fogged from the inside now, soft with condensation. I cracked the door to let in some air, and the breeze that slipped through was clean and cool, like the world had been rinsed. Caleb had dozed off in booth 6, head tilted against the vinyl, one hand still resting near the pie plate. I didn't wake him. Some rests are earned. Grill Mel emerged from the back, holding a battered thermos and a look that said he'd been thinking too much. You ever going to take that trip? He asked, nodding toward the postcard taped to the fridge. Nova Scotia, Peggy's Cove Lighthouse, faded ink and a stamp from someone who hadn't written in years. I shrugged. Maybe. The Breakwater Inn isn't far from there. It's one of those dreams that will never come true. Someday, I hope it will. You've had that thing up since April. I like the colors. He grunted. You like the idea of going, not the going. I didn't answer. The postcard fluttered slightly in the breeze. Grill Mel poured himself a cup of whatever was in the thermos. It smelled like chicory and stubbornness. You're good with him, he said, nodding toward Caleb. He's just a customer. Uh-huh, and I'm just a line cook. I smiled. You're more than that. He didn't smile back. So are you. The fridge kicked on. The lights buzzed. Caleb stirred, but didn't wake. You ever think about leaving? I asked. Every day, Grill Mel said, but I stay. Not because I love it, because I know how to do it. I nodded. Yeah. He looked at me, eyes sharp beneath his bushy brows. Don't let knowing stop you from wanting. Then he disappeared into the back again, like he hadn't just dropped a truth bomb between the pie case and the napkin dispenser. I sat at the counter, watching the postcard sway. The lighthouse looked lonely, or maybe just patient. Behind me, Caleb shifted again. I turned. He was awake now, watching me. Everything okay? He asked, voice rough with sleep. Yeah, I said, just thinking about lighthouses. He blinked. That a metaphor? Nope, just a place I haven't been. He smiled, slow. Maybe you should go. Maybe. Outside, the breeze picked up. The clouds were heavier. The clouds were breaking. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself imagine what it might feel like to leave. Chapter 8. By 2:30, the lightning had started again. Sharp, jagged bolts that lit up the diner in flashes of white blue. like someone was taking photos of our quiet little booth. Thunder followed, fast, rattling the windows and making the napkin dispenser jump. Then came the hail, tiny pellets tapping the roof like impatient fingers. Caleb flinched at the first crack. I didn't. I'd grown up with storms like this. Utah tantrums that came fast and left puddles like apologies. You okay? I asked. He nodded, eyes wide. Just wasn't expecting percussion. I smiled. Welcome to the encore. We moved to the counter, closer to the windows. The diner lights flickered once, then held. Grill Mel grunted from the back, probably counting hailstones like they owed him rent. Caleb leaned forward. You ever play diner games? Like what? Guess the customer's order based on their shoes. I laughed. That's a classic. He pointed to a pair of muddy boots abandoned near the door. Go. I squinted. Double bacon cheeseburger, extra pickles, no onions, root beer, no dessert. Caleb grinned. You're good. Occupational hazard. He pointed to the stool where Eli had sat earlier. What about him? I paused. Turkey club, no mayo, side salad, unsweetened iced tea, and a complicated past. Caleb didn't laugh, but he didn't look away either. The hail softened, then stopped. Rain took over, steady, rhythmic, like the diner had its own soundtrack now. The windows fogged again. The neon sign blazed, casting pink light across Caleb's cheekbones. You ever want to leave? He asked. Sometimes. Where would you go? Nova Scotia, Breakwater Inn, near the lighthouse. He blinked. That's specific. It's a dream, one of those quiet ones you don't say out loud unless the pie's good. He nodded. You should go. Maybe. We played another round, guessed the life story based on jacket color, then one about what kind of pie matched your dating history. Caleb said cherry was for romantics. I said lemon meringue was for people who ghosted. He laughed, full-bodied. You're not like anyone I've met. Good different or weird different? Both. Outside, the lightning cracked again. Caleb didn't flinch this time. I'm glad I stayed, he said. Me too. We didn't kiss. We didn't confess. We just sat there, playing games while the storm played percussion. And for once, the diner felt like the safest place in the world. Chapter 9. By 3 a.m., the diner was a cocoon. Fogged windows, soft lights, the scent of bleach fading into cinnamon from the pie case. The storm had moved east, leaving behind puddles that glowed under the streetlights like forgotten wishes. Caleb sat at the counter, chin resting on his hand, watching me refill the sugar dispenser like it was a sacred ritual. You always this careful? He asked. Only when I'm trying to stay. He blinked. Stay where? In the moment. He smiled. Slow. You're good at that. I shrugged. Comes with the apron. Grill Mill had gone home an hour ago, leaving behind a note that said, Don't burn anything, feelings included. I taped it to the fridge next to the postcard. Caleb stood, stretched, walked to booth 4 like it was calling him back. I followed, wiping down the table even though it was clean. I used to think love was supposed to be loud, he said. Big gestures, grand confessions. I sat across from him. And now? And now I think it's quiet, like pie at 3 a.m., or someone who listens. The fridge hummed, the neon sign buzzed, a car passed outside, tires hissing against wet pavement. I'm scared, he said. Me too. He looked at me then, really looked, like he was trying to memorize the way I breathed. I don't know what this is, he said. It's a beginning. He reached across the table, fingers brushing mine, warm, steady, a little calloused. I didn't pull away. I leaned in, slow. I met him, halfway. The kiss was soft, surprised, like a question asked and answered in the same breath. Outside, the puddles shimmered. Inside, the pie sat untouched, and for once the diner felt like a place where something started. Chapter 10. The lightning hit at 3:17 a.m., a blinding flash followed by a crack so loud it felt like the sky had split open. The diner lights flickered once, twice, then died. The fridge groaned. The neon sign outside sputtered and went dark. Silence followed, thick and absolute. Then the rain came harder, sheets of it slamming the windows like fists. The wind howled through the cracked door, rattling the napkin dispensers and sending a salt packet skittering across the counter like a warning. Caleb stood fast, eyes wide. What the hell? Transformer, I said. Pole's probably toast. The emergency lights kicked in, dim, yellow, casting long shadows across the booths. The diner looked different in the dark, older, haunted. That's when the door opened. Eli, soaked through, hair plastered to his forehead, jacket clinging to him like regret. He stepped inside like he owned the place, like he'd never left. Power's out, he said, voice too casual. Thought I'd check on you. Caleb froze. I didn't. We're fine, I said. You can go. Eli ignored me. His eyes were on Caleb. You okay? Caleb nodded, slow. I was. Eli stepped closer. Water dripped from his sleeves onto the table. I just wanted to talk. Now? I asked, during a blackout. He looked at me, finally. You always this territorial? Only when someone walks in like a ghost and pretends they're welcome. Caleb stepped between us. Stop. We both did. The rain thundered against the roof. A gust of wind slammed the door shut behind Eli, hard enough to make the pie case rattle. I'm not here to fight, Eli said. I saw the lights go out. I got worried. Caleb's voice was quiet. You don't get to worry anymore. Eli flinched. I know, I just... No, Caleb said. You don't. The silence that followed was heavier than the storm. Eli looked at me again. You think you're better for him? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Caleb did. He's not better. He's just here. Eli nodded. Once. Okay. He turned, opened the door. Rain blew in sideways, soaking the floor. Then he was gone. The door swung shut behind him, slow and final. Caleb sat down hard in booth 4. I joined him. The emergency lights buzzed. The pie case hummed, still running on backup. I'm sorry, Caleb said. Don't be. I didn't know he'd come back. Neither did the power. He laughed, shaky. You okay? Yeah, I said. You? He nodded. I think so. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, we sat in the dark, 2 silhouettes in a diner that had seen too much. And somehow, it still felt like the safest place in the world. Chapter 11. By 4 a.m., the power still hadn't come back. The emergency lights had dimmed to a soft amber glow, casting long shadows across the booths, like ghosts stretching their legs. The rain had slowed, but the wind still howled, rattling the windows and moaning through the vents, like the building itself was grieving. Caleb sat in booth 4 again, arms crossed, eyes distant. The kiss felt like it had happened in another timeline, one where Eli hadn't walked in, where the lights hadn't gone out, where the pie had been warm and the moment had stayed soft. I poured water from the backup jug. It tasted like plastic. "You okay?" I asked. He didn't answer. I sat across from him, waited. Finally, he spoke. "I don't know what I'm doing." "That makes two of us." He looked at me, and for the first time, there was distance in his eyes. Not anger, not fear, just retreat. "I thought I was ready," he said, "but maybe I'm not." The words landed like hailstones, small, sharp, cold. "I get it," I said, even though I didn't. Not really. "I didn't expect to feel this much," he continued. And then Eli showed up. And I remembered how easy it is to fall back into old patterns, how hard it is to trust something new. I nodded. "You think I'm a pattern?" "No," he said quickly. "You're the opposite. That's what scares me." The fridge had stopped humming. The silence was louder now. "I don't want to hurt you," he said. "You already said that." "I mean it. I know." He stood, slowly, like the air had thickened. "I need to go," he said. I didn't stop him. He grabbed his jacket, paused at the door. "I'm sorry," he said. "Me too." Then he was gone. The door swung shut behind him, letting in a gust of cold air that smelled like wet pavement. I sat in booth 4, alone. The pie was still there, uneaten. The fork had fallen sideways, tines catching the light like a question mark. Grill Mel's note fluttered on the fridge. "Don't burn anything. Feelings included." Too late. Chapter 12. By 5 a.m., the diner was cold. Not freezing, but the kind of chill that settles in your bones when the power's been out too long and the coffee's gone stale. The emergency lights had dimmed to a flicker. The pie case was silent. The fridge had stopped humming hours ago. I sat in booth 4, alone. Caleb's napkin still there. Creased, folded, stained with pie and maybe something else. I didn't touch it. Outside, the rain had slowed to a whisper. The streetlights cast long shadows across the cracked asphalt, and the puddles reflected nothing. The neon sign was dark. The world felt paused. I stared at the postcard on the fridge. Peggy's Cove, Lighthouse, the Breakwater Inn. A dream with coordinates, a place I hadn't been, a place I might never go. Grill's mail note fluttered once, then fell. I didn't pick it up. I thought about the kiss, about Caleb's hand brushing mine, about the way he'd looked at me, like I was something holy. And then I thought about the way he'd left. Quiet, apologetic, like he was returning something he'd borrowed. I poured myself a glass of water. It tasted like nothing. The diner smelled like bleach. And endings. The vinyl booth creaked in the silence. A car passed outside, slow, cautious, like it didn't want to interrupt whatever grief had settled here. I wondered if I'd imagined it all, the connection, the games, the pie, the kiss. I wondered if I'd been a rebound after all. I wondered if I was always going to be the guy who stayed behind, wiping counters and watching dreams flicker out like faulty neon. I didn't cry, but I wanted to. Instead, I stood, walked to the fridge, picked up the postcard, smoothed the edges, taped it back up. Then I sat down, booth 4, same spot, same silence. And I waited, not for Caleb, not for Eli, not even for the power. I waited for the feeling to pass, because it always does, eventually. Chapter 13. By 6 a.m., the sky had started to lighten, just a sliver of gray at the edge of the horizon, like the world was remembering how to breathe. The rain had stopped, the windows were streaked with water, and dawn. The power was still out, but the diner didn't feel quite as cold. I was still in booth 4, still alone, but something had shifted. I picked up the napkin Caleb had left behind, smoothed it, folded it, tucked it into my apron pocket like it meant something. Maybe it did. The postcard was still taped to the fridge. Peggy's Cove, the Breakwater Inn, a dream with coordinates. A place I hadn't been. Yet. I stood, stretched, my back popped like an old jukebox. I walked to the counter, poured the last of the backup water into a mug. It still tasted like plastic. And sat on the stool where Eli had once perched. Grill Mel's note was still on the floor. I picked it up, smoothed it, read it again. Don't burn anything, feelings included. I smiled. Too late, I said out loud. The door creaked open. Not Caleb. A woman in scrubs, hair pulled back, eyes tired. You open? Technically, I said, but no power, no coffee, no pie. She sighed. I'll take a booth anyway. I nodded. Booth 2's clean. She sat. I brought her water. She didn't ask for it, but I brought it anyway. And that's when I knew. I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for Caleb, not for the power, not for the perfect moment. I was here. I was still Mel, still the waiter one, still the guy who knew how to listen, how to pour water, how to fold napkins like they mattered. But I was also the guy who might go to Nova Scotia someday, the guy who might send his own postcard, the guy who might love again. The lights flickered once, then again, then they came on, the fridge hummed, the pie case lit up, the neon sign buzzed back to life. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was time. Chapter 14. By 6:30, the sky had cracked open. Not just light, color, streaks of coral and gold stretched across the horizon, like someone had spilled sunrise paint across the clouds. The puddles outside caught it all, turning the cracked asphalt into a mirror of the morning. The neon sign buzzed back to life, casting soft pink against the diner windows. I stood at the counter, watching the sky shift. The pie case hummed, the fridge was back, the coffee was brewing again, and the scent of cinnamon and burnt hope filled the air. Booth 4 was empty, but I wasn't. That's when the door opened. Caleb. Dry this time. Jacket folded over one arm. Eyes clearer than they'd been all night. I couldn't sleep, he said. I didn't answer, just waited. I kept thinking about the pie, he said, and the kiss, and the way you looked at me like I was something worth staying for. I nodded. You are. He stepped closer. I'm still scared. Me too. But I want to try. I smiled. We've got coffee, we've got pie, we've got sunrise. That's a start. He sat in booth 4. I joined him. The vinyl was warm from the sun. The light spilled across the table like a blessing. I don't know what this is, he said. It's a beginning. Outside, the sky kept glowing. Inside, the diner felt like a place where something new could grow. And for once, I didn't mind the morning shift. Chapter 15. It was 7 a.m., and the diner smelled like cinnamon, fresh coffee, and the kind of morning that makes you believe in second chances. The sun had fully risen, casting gold across the booths, turning the cracked vinyl into something holy. Booth 4 was occupied. Caleb sat there, sipping coffee, eyes on the window. His jacket was draped over the seat. His napkin was folded neatly beside his plate. The pie was gone. I wiped down booth 6, just like I had the night before. The counter gleamed, the fridge hummed, the neon sign buzzed steady. Caleb looked up, smiled. "Morning," he said. "Morning," I replied. He reached for my hand. I let him. Outside, the puddles shimmered. Inside, the diner felt like a place where something had begun. And for once, I didn't feel like the guy who stayed behind. I felt like the guy someone might come back for. Epilogue. The clouds were silvery, brushed like watercolor across the morning sky. Dawn didn't burst in. It crept, gentle, curious. It slipped through the window of our room at the Breakwater Inn and spilled across the sheets like it had something to bless. Through the glass, just beyond the curve of the rocky shore, the lighthouse stood watch. Peggy's Cove, still and steadfast, its white tower catching the first gold of morning like it had been waiting for us. An empty champagne bottle perched on the nightstand, the fluted glasses next to it, also empty. A Nova Scotia vintage. It came complimentary for honeymooners. We'd been married exactly 35 hours. Caleb, my new husband, was still asleep beside me, one arm draped across my chest, his breath slow and steady, the kind of rhythm that makes you believe in second chances. I didn't move, didn't speak, just watched the light find him, first his shoulder, then his cheek, then the curve of his smile, even in sleep. I thought about cherry pie, not the recipe, not the risk, just the moment, the bite we shared, the silence that followed, the way he stayed. Outside, the sun rose in full glory, gold and fire and everything the storm had once hidden. The lighthouse caught it all, casting a long shadow across the sea, but inside it was quiet, warm, real. I whispered, "You're the sweetness I didn't know I could keep." He stirred, smiled, didn't open his eyes. And I knew the diner would open again, the fridge would hum, booth 4 would wait. But this was the image I would remember for the rest of my life. A lighthouse in the distance, a hand on my chest, a morning that didn't need to prove anything. And it was enough. I leaned over and kissed his nose. Thanks, my friends, for stopping by the diner. This story was co-created by me, Geo and Copilot, in the loud and proud L3Q flash fiction format, where legacy, love, and laughter are always on the menu. Come back soon. We've got more stories to serve. I love you all, my friends. Thank you for stopping by. Peace.